and welcome to another episode of the Top Dogs podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Dosser. I'm coming to you live from the Courtyard Inn in beautiful, well, it's not really all that beautiful right now, in rainy Boston, Massachusetts. We are now at 48 consecutive hours of rain here in this lovely, lovely eastern seaboard city. Stores north, if you will. And UConn is coming off of an 82-52 win over San Diego State in the Sweet 16 to advance to the Elite Eight. It's the first time that a reigning national champion has made it to the Elite Eight since 2007, back when Billy Donovan and the Florida Gators went to back-to-back national championships. It's been interesting to kind of see it get to this point, right? Like the level of dominance that UConn has had in this tournament is something that has been relatively unprecedented, right? Like I can't remember a team that has been in this level of command. Like it hasn't felt at any point in this tournament like UConn was in any trouble, and that includes last night's game against San Diego State. Even when the Aztecs made a run, I'm saying made a run, they cut it to 5 points midway through the first half, and everyone was like, "Ooh, maybe this one's going to be interesting." But nope. UConn took a 9-point lead at halftime. They ended up winning the game by 30 points. And by the time we hit the under 16 in the second half, it was very clear that we were just kind of playing out the rest of the game as opposed to having a game where it felt like San Diego State had a very real chance to win this thing. Sorry, I need a sip of coffee. It's early in the morning. We had a late night last night. So there's a couple things that I want to touch on here. First and foremost is we talked before this game about the importance of UConn being able to avoid three things, right? You can't let San Diego State get hopped in the perimeter and have an outlier three-point shooting performance. You could not get Donovan Clingan in foul trouble. Like that's the one Achilles heel for this team, and we've seen that throughout the entire season. And you had to be able to run your offense and get the looks that you wanted and get the sets that you wanted. Now, when it comes to shooting, like it was not an outlier performance for San Diego State by any stretch of the imagination. And while Clingan did pick up his third foul, I believe early in the second half, and his second foul late in the first half, it wasn't a situation where, he had to miss a good like 10 to 12 minute stretch of the first half because of the fouls, right? I think he probably sat like that was the last 3 minutes of the first half in a game where you kind of already at that point had held a double-digit lead in the first half. So I think that they did a pretty good job with all of those things. And I would say this. Jaden Ledee had 15 points in the first half before he ended up getting into foul trouble. I thought that San Diego State did about as good of a job for the last 11 minutes of the first half. UConn scored 27 points in the first 9 minutes of the first half, right? And then in the last 11 minutes of the first half, I thought that San Diego State actually did a really good job mucking up what UConn wanted and making the shots that they got as difficult as possible. And combine all that with the fact that Jaden Ledee scored 15 points in about the first 12 minutes of that game. And I think that San Diego State would go into halftime saying, we played pretty well. We had a pretty good first half. We had a pretty good 20 minutes, and they should feel pretty good about where they were in context with UConn. And they were still down by 9. And I think you can make the argument that UConn had about as poor of a first half as we've seen out of them since these tournament settings started. So it was one of those things where when the second half kicked off, it was very clear that this was going to be a difficult climb for San Diego State to make. And by the time we got midway through the second half, it was clear they were outclassed. Now, I have a great deal of respect for that San Diego State program. They are exceptionally well coached. The way that they're able to continually remain relevant despite losing key pieces over and over and over again is admirable. And I do want it. It's the same thing with them and with Dayton, right? Like every time that they have a good team, I want them to make a deep run of the tournament because they were Final Four good in 2020, as was Dayton, and that tournament got ripped away from them. And I want them to be able to have those fans, that coaching staff. There's none of the players are still left, but to be able to enjoy that run, I want it for them. I think that it's basketball. The basketball gods, basketball karma is good if you can find a way to make that happen. But Wasn't meant to be this year. They ran into a buzzsaw. It is what it is. Illinois, actually, it was the matchup with Iowa State was fascinating because you had the number one offense in college basketball against the number one defense in college basketball. And for about the first 15 minutes, it was very clear that the number one offense was getting the best of the number one defense. Illinois was, I think they had like a 12-point lead in the first half, and that was despite the fact that they did not shoot the ball all that well from the free throw line or from the perimeter in that stretch. I think they missed 14 free throws yesterday. If they made their free throws in the first half, I think they were 5 for 14 at one point. That's a blowout, and Iowa State doesn't make that run to even make it interesting down the stretch. But I mean, look, I think that UConn and Purdue are clear cut the two best teams in college basketball. I think that once you get past them, it's probably Houston, maybe Marquette, maybe Creighton, maybe Tennessee belongs in there. I would have had North Carolina in there. And I don't want to even say Duke, but at this point, I don't know why you wouldn't include Illinois in, or at the very least near the top of that conversation, for a number of different reasons. But the biggest of which is that Terrence Shannon is basically the best player in college basketball right now. Like, he's been unbelievable since tournament started. Since March 15th, he is averaging 29.5 points per game. He's shooting 53% from the floor. He's shooting 41% from three. He's getting to the line more than 11 times per game. He has been utterly, utterly dominant. There are not many athletes in the sport that are as big, as physical, as good at getting to his left hand, as good at getting downhill, as good at getting to the rim as Terrence Shannon. He's been incredible. And I know that there are some complicating factors around that regarding the sexual assault, rape allegations that it's not just allegations. He has an active rape case against him right now in Lawrence, Kansas. He is not speaking to the media. He is not talking to anybody. It is wild. Like, this is just such a wild situation. Um, and it's one that I am sure that UConn fans on social media and UConn fans on Twitter and UConn fans in the building tomorrow are going to be very sure to remind him and remind all of the Illinois fans about. So that will be interesting to watch it all kind of play out. But in terms of the specific matchup between Illinois and UConn, I'm fascinated by this. I really, really am, because UConn has become they're now the number one offense in all of college basketball on KenPom. They are the number 6 defense in all of college basketball on KenPom. But specifically, I'm very, very curious. Look, offensively, Illinois is going to get theirs. All right. Like, what Illinois wants to do, and the way that they kind of run their stuff is, they have some sets and they have some plays, and they look to get pick and rolls, and they look to do a bunch of other things, and they're very good in transition. So if they can get a stop and a rebound and get out and run, like, the scariest thing in college basketball right now is Terrence Shannon on a fast break. Like, if he's on a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-1, like, you have no chance. He's going to the rim, he's going to get fouled, and he's probably going to get an and one. There is nothing better in sports than tournament time, which is why I need to tell you guys about our partners over at Rhythm. If you're into sports betting, you need Rhythm, the place for data-backed props and picks. For those that are unfamiliar, Rhythm, spelled RITHMM, is the go-to mobile app for player props and game picks. Backed by AI predictive models, Rhythm helps you make smarter and faster betting decisions across all sports, but particularly college basketball. With Rhythm, you get data-backed picks for every single Division I game every single day. Users get free picks daily with the ability to upgrade to unlimited access. If you want to increase your edge and win more bets, go to the link in the description and download Rhythm today. That's RITHMM, the place for data-backed props and picks. And while we're here, let me tell you about our newest partner for the month of March, Splash Sports, the home of certified community competition, where you get to play against your friends and not the house. Whatever game it is that you are playing, from survivors to tiers to pick X, the safest way to play for real money without the hassle of having to track down deposits or worry about payments is through Splash. They have partnered with PaySafe, the best deposit and payment system in the world, to ensure that money stays in safe hands and is delivered to the right places. To join the Field of 68 Survivor Madness, click the link in our profile below and join in. Entries are $5 a pop with a prize pool of up to $4,500. winner take all. Join Splash and come prove that you're smarter than us. By now, you guys have surely heard about Autograph, an app founded by Tom Brady with the intention of disrupting the way that fans consume content covering their favorite teams. This is how the app works. All of the podcasters, bloggers, and digital creators covering a team have their content sent to that team's page in the Autograph app. Instead of having to bounce from site to site or trying to navigate the safer workspaces on Twitter, you can just scroll through Autograph. This isn't a hard sell. This is the truth. I am a UConn fan, and I use the Autograph app to keep up with the writers I read and the pods that I listen to about UConn basketball. The best part is that every piece of content that you consume gives you reward points. The more you get, the more chances you have at things like discounted tickets to games and the grand prize, a trip to the LA Regional and a spot in a suite for the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games. Here's the best part. We've partnered with Autograph to donate $1 to the V Foundation every time someone downloads the app using the code F68, with a minimum of $2,500 getting donated. The app is free. So download, use the code F68, help us raise a little bit of money for cancer research, and give Autograph a try. I promise you it will be worth it. And while we're here, a quick reminder, make sure that you subscribe to the Daily. We have new landing pages with deep dives into each coaching change, as well as a tracker that provides scouting reports on the transfers that have entered the portal that you are going to want to know about. Hit the link below to subscribe. But if you can like that, so number one key is to be able to kind of control him in transition and slow him down in transition. Um, but what they want to do offensively when they're kind of in a half court set is they call it booty ball, right? And they don't really have a point guard on the roster. They have guys that can bring the ball up. They have guys that can kind of initiate a set. They have a bunch of dudes that are capable passers. Coleman Hawkins has been a very good playmaker for them throughout this season. But what they essentially do is they look for the matchups that they believe they have an advantage on, and they try to run a set where you can get that guy isolated. A lot of times it's Marcus Domask in the mid post, trying to back somebody in and trying to find a way to kind of, get a pump fake, get up and under someone, find a way to get to a turnaround, maybe draw a second defender, kick it out, swing, bang, open three. Maybe it's getting Terrence Shannon isolated on a wing on the weak side of the floor with four shooters around him on the other side, so he can drive left, get to the middle, and if help comes, kick it out, and if it doesn't, go up and try to dunk on somebody. It is getting Coleman Hawkins isolated at the top of the key against most likely Donovan Clingan, and hoping that either Clingan can't stay with him and Hawkins can get open three, or Clingan will come out closer to him and you know, draw a foul, get beaten off the dribble, something like that. At the very least, it pulls him away from the rim, which is the key. So that is something where it is the kind of offense that I think will work against UConn's defense because uh, since they rely so much on one-on-one stuff, it creates a situation where you're isolating some of UConn's guys who are not the best defenders, right? Like we've talked about this all season long. Uh, where UConn struggles a little bit on the defensive end of the floor is the isolation stuff, the one-on-one stuff. They don't have a lot of guys that are just absolute shutdown individual defenders. Steph Castle's one. Hassan Diarra is one, although, against a team where the smallest guy on the floor most often is going to be 6'5", it's going to be a little bit of a disadvantage. It's going to be Haas is going to have his work cut out for him in this matchup. And beyond that, like Tristan Newton, what makes him good is not his ability to shut somebody down one-on-one. He's a good positional defender. He's fine. He gets the job done, but his strength is not just put him on the best player and say, all right, he's not scoring tonight. Same thing with Cam Spencer. Really good positional defender. Not a good enough. If he gets isolated on Terrence Shannon, that is a bad matchup for UConn. The other part of it is part of the advantage that UConn has on both ends of the floor is the size of their backcourt. And they are going to have the smaller guards in this matchup. So Illinois is going to be able to take advantage of them there. So there's a lot of advantages that Illinois can kind of capitalize on the offensive end of the floor. And it's something they've done all season. Like this is the number two offense in college basketball. If UConn doesn't score 82 on San Diego State on Thursday night, we're heading into Saturday's game with UConn as the number two offense in college basketball and Illinois is the number one. Like these are the two juggernauts. Like this is going to make it. This is why this matchup is going to be so much fun to see play out and to watch play out um, because of that. Now, here's the interesting tweak. Uh, Illinois starts a guy named Ty Rogers. Ty Rogers is a 6'6", kind of like point forward. He's got a little bit of Steph Castle in his, like think about Steph Castle. He's not quite as talented. He's not the threat that Steph is offensively. He's older. He's not a pro, but in terms of just being like a 6'6" junkyard dog that gets on the glass, that mixes it up defensively, that is selfless, that is willing to do whatever it takes for his team to win. Like he's kind of Illinois' version of Steph Castle, and he can't shoot. And what teams have done all season long is just put their center in front of the rim and not guard him. They basically do to Ty Rogers what teams did to Andre Jackson last season. And the way that they've done that is by using the center. What Purdue's done, it's actually really interesting and really smart defense, is they have Zach, whenever Ty Rogers is on the floor, they have Zach Edey guarding him and just put Zach Edey in front of the rim and say, you're not getting to the rim. It's not going to happen because we're going to leave the big fella right here. You know what UConn can do? They can just put Donovan Clingan right there. So, and when that happens, what will often happen on the Illinois side is Dane Danger will come in, or they'll bring in like Justin Harmon, and then they'll play Coleman Hawkins at the 5, and they go with a little bit of a smaller lineup, which kind of plays into UConn's hands. But there's going to be an exceptionally interesting chess match going on between the two coaches in terms of these lineups and these cross matches and the way that kind of works out. I cannot. That is going to be the most interesting part of Saturday night's game to me, is just seeing how Hurley matches up defensively. I would really hope that he would put Clingan on Ty Rogers. Seeing who he puts on Coleman Hawkins, my guess is that's going to end up being Alex Karaban, which is going to be a tough matchup for Karaban. Like Karaban's got to step up. Like he's been improved defensively since his freshman year, and he's gotten better throughout this season. But is going to have his work cut out for him. Like Coleman Hawkins can be erratic, but Coleman Hawkins is also probably, I think you can make the argument, the second most talented player on the floor tomorrow. All due respect to Steph, all due respect to Tristan Newton and to Cam Spencer. But when it comes to like the physical gifts that a player, like he's a 6'10" point forward that can hit step back threes, and when he wants to be, is maybe the best defender on the floor. Like he's got lottery pick talent. And I don't feel like I am overstating it when I talk about that. The issue that he has isn't the ability. There's other things going on there. But that's going to be the matchup that Alex Karaban is going to take on. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that all plays out on the defensive end, and then how long it takes Brad Underwood to switch up the lineups. And then when he does switch up the lineups, does Hurley kind of roll with Donovan Clingan at the 5 guarding Coleman Hawkins? Is this going to be a game where you spend a little more time with Samson Johnson on the floor because he's more athletic and more capable of defending on the perimeter? It's just everything on that end of the floor is fascinating to me, because on the other end is where UConn is really going to have an advantage and a chance to be able to win some matchups, right? And what I mean by that is Illinois on paper looks like a team that should be elite when it comes to switching everything, right? Like their starting 5, Ty Rogers is 6'6", Marcus Domask is 6'5", Terrence Shannon is 6'6", Quincy Guerrier is 6'8", but he's versatile, and Coleman Hawkins is 6'10", but he's versatile. Like they should be able to switch everything, not just 1 through 4, but 1 through 5, to be able to take away and to take away what UConn wants to run. And in theory, that should work, right? But when it comes to the amount of exchanges and the amount of movement and the amount of times that UConn is running off of the screen, and the amount of different sets that they run, the counters that they have, and the attention to detail that you need to have if you're going to be switching everything against that defense, to be able to prep for that in 41 hours is just like that is a massive, massive ask. And I'm not going to put it against Brad Underwood trying to find a way to figure it out, but it's also something where if UConn is going to win this game, they have to be able to get whatever they want offensively, right? Like this is going to be a game that gets played in the 80s, maybe even the low 90s. And I do think that it's something where if Illinois can really mess up everything that UConn wants to do offensively, they'll be able to have the chance to do it. And the reason why I think they can switch 1 through 5 is they have enough guys that are strong with a low center of gravity that I feel like they should feel decent enough about, okay, if the matchup that UConn wants to try to take advantage of, let me rewind real quick. The way that you would attack something switching 1 through 5 is basically what NBA teams do, right? And that is figure out the matchup that you want, figure out what you think you can win, and then go and isolate that, right? So that would be, let's just say that you think that Terrence Shannon, I'm sorry, that Tristan Newton can beat Marcus Domask every single time they get locked up 1-on-1. Well, whoever Marcus Domask is guarding, you run your offense, right? You get what you get. Then let's say there's 10 seconds left. Whoever Marcus Domask is guarding, you just have him go up and set a ball screen for Tristan Newton, and everyone else get the hell out of the way because they're going to switch, and you got Newton against Domask, and you let him go 1-on-1. The other thing that you can do is go until you have Donovan Clingan being guarded by someone that is 6'5" in the post. And I think Illinois would probably be okay saying, okay, if the offense that you're going to run is throw the ball into Donovan Clingan in the post and let him try to back down a 6'5", 6'6" dude who just has to kind of get low, get leverage, wall up, and try to keep Clingan from being able to back down and get to the rim. Because a 7 foot, like we talked about it all season long, a 7'3" dude with a high center of gravity is not going to be able to just bully people back. It's physics, it's human nature. It's very difficult to get low enough to back people down when you are Donovan Clingan, 7'3", high hips, and all that. So that is going to be fascinating as well. Like, what is Brad Underwood going to do defensively? And I honestly think, and I'm not just saying this because I'm here, I'm not just saying it because I'm a UConn fan, I'm not just saying it because my producer is an Illinois fan. I think that this is the most exciting and high-level matchup that we could end up seeing in this entire NCAA tournament. The only matchup that I am more interested in seeing is UConn taking on Purdue. And it's going to be tough. Like, if you're going to win a national championship, you got to beat the best teams a lot of times. And this is one of the best teams in college basketball. I think Illinois has a very, very real chance to win this game. I think the line opened up at 7.5. That seems a little bit high for this situation. But I think that UConn is going to find a way to be able to run enough stuff offensively that is going to give Illinois problems that they'll be able to win. But again, like, Illinois has 3 guys that we've seen this season go out and win games all by themselves. Coleman Hawkins has done that. Marcus Domask has done that. Like, Terrence Shannon has done that for the last 2 weeks. Part of the reason why they won the Big Ten tournament and they're sitting here in the Elite Eight is because Terrence Shannon has been the best player in college basketball for the last 3 weeks. So it's going to be a fascinating, fascinating matchup. And I will tell you this, for the UConn fans that are going to be in attendance in Boston that are heading up to Stores North, Illinois fans get after it. They are loud. They are rambunctious. A lot of them are nuts. A lot of them are as passionate as you guys are. And please stay safe. Like, talk a lot of shit, but please stay safe. We don't need to, I don't want to hear any of the horror stories that you sometimes hear about, some big neutral site games, maybe in other sports, but, and 2, just enjoy the hell out of it. Cause I very much believe that the TD Garden is going to be, it'll probably be something like 65-35, 60-40, because I think there's going to be a lot of Illinois fans. There were a bunch there last night, and I think there's going to be more that come in today. I was checking the prices for flights, and it was $400 round trip to fly in Saturday morning and fly home Sunday morning from O'Hare in Chicago into Logan Airport. So I would not be surprised if there was an influx of Illinois fans flying in today to see their team get a chance to make it to the Final Four. So enjoy it. It's going to be loud. It's going to be a great experience. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and I personally cannot wait to be there. This is what we're here for, right? This is why March is the absolute best. This is why March Madness is the absolute best, and this is why we love this freaking sport. It's the best, man. Can't wait. See you guys on Saturday night, and hopefully now that will result in a UConn win. The best month of the year is here, which is why you need to know that we are now partnered with BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the conference and NCAA tournament. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150, and you'll get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not that bet hits. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game, and you get $150 in free bets regardless of the outcome. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, and what I love the most, a nice little parlay boost, as well as a ridiculous array of prop bets for anything that you could possibly imagine betting on in March and in early April. BetMGM is the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use Field150 as the code, and sign up today. And while I've got you here, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get here for absolutely free is to engage with it. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to our show. Whether you are a world-class athlete or a podcaster like myself, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. After a 6-month season loaded with cross-country travel and late nights, I can promise you that proper recovery is a priority for me these days. That is why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the Field of 68. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers that's powered by the Energy Enhancement System, or the EE system. If you haven't heard of the EE system yet, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New Jersey or at hundreds of other locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Are you interested in experiencing the EE system technology for yourself? Well, all you got to do is go to unifiedhealing.com/field to learn more and find a center near you. You can find that link in the description below. That's unified, UNIFYD, healing.com/field. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before you undertake a new healthcare regimen, including the EE system.